because I love everything that you're doing. I'll just read your bio. I'm sure your followers already know who you are, but for those who don't know,
Yeah.
Nino and Lulu are both passionate about helping those in relationships thrive, whether they are single or married. Nosa is an oil and gas professional, and Oluchi is a certified counselor with the Institute of Counseling in Nigeria, as well as the Love, Dating and Marriage Institute. She's also the COO of Cornerstone Counseling Center. Nota is also a relationship coach and also a certified personality type coach with the John Maxwell team. He's a certified counselor as well with the Institute of Counseling. Um, and with your passion, you've birthed Thriving at Love and Relationships. Your YouTube channel, right, was
Yeah.
created to showcase successful Christian homes while helping marriages and relationships thrive. You've averaged over 4,000 subscribers, spanning over 185K views. Your Instagram page, which is where I found you, has gathered a following of over 29K followers and is still growing, all in the space of 1 year. I mean, wow. And I am one of the 29,000 fans, right? Like what, like I'm just like blown away by that. And the reason why I reached out to you is because it's just so encouraging to see a young couple of your generation standing in the gap and saying that we want to shout out about love and healthy relationships. So yeah, where where did the inspiration come from for Tala, for what you do?
That's-
I think my husband go first.
Okay, so the inspiration came from God. So let me just go back a little bit of memory lane. So
Mm-hmm.
I think I had always my parents are married,
Mm-hmm.
and there are some things that I saw in their marriage that I was like, okay, this could be better and all that. And I just realized over time that um, people always would come for relationship advice and I will help
From
in
your
their
parents
relationship. Oh, for me,
or
to
from
me.
you? Okay, yeah.
Yes, yes,
Okay.
at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so they always come to me for relationship advice, and I'll somehow give them some level of wisdom. I'm like, okay, I'm getting the hang of this. And
Mm-hmm.
then over time, it became a passion. And
Mm-hmm.
then when I met my wife, um, I remember God had said that I should speak to her about it. That He's basically going to pour our marriage out like water for other people to drink.
Wow.
And yeah, I think when she first heard it, she was a little, well, I say frazzled, but I mean, eventually she went to pray about it. And I mean, we both saw things growing up that we believe could happen better.
Mm-hmm.
And it took us 1 year,
Mm-hmm.
but one day we were just like, okay, you know what, we need to start this thing. And
Mm-hmm.
we just started. I think we all started from the YouTube, not even Instagram. Okay, we launched an Instagram page.
Yeah.
And then we started shooting on YouTube.
Yeah.
And that has been, it's been what you're seeing now is the journey so far.
It's a journey. Wow. So like I love what you're saying, that yes, a lot of us have grown up and maybe what we've seen is not the greatest, but
Yeah.
you're still like standing in that gap, and that this is
Yes.
something that you feel like that God told you to do. And then you
Yes.
approached your wife,
Yes.
and I'm imagining that it's quite a burden,
Yes. It is.
right? Is this how long have you been married?
So we're in our third year now.
Yeah.
Yay, third year. Congratulations. So I'm like just
Thank
thinking like, third year of marriage, still kind of like that honeymoon phase, I hope. I hope. And then like you've just been placed this mandate that you need to do this. How do you
Yeah.
manage that? How do you balance that? Because I heard, in your bio, you work as an oil and gas professional. You've both got your 9 to 5s. I know how difficult it was to reach you guys because you've got your day job and then you're doing
Yeah.
this as well.
Yeah.
How do you balance that?
Uh,
I think um, definitely it hasn't been easy, but I think what helps us is the fact that we put systems in place. and we try to work around our schedule. For example, just I'm not sure if I can say it, but just yesterday we started shooting for our next season, and that was only because we had planned our time around it. So everything in our happens during the weekend, and then some other things happen during the day. So and we also prioritize. For example, I'm the one who handles everything admin. My husband is more of the checking the messages, making sure that everything works as it ought to. So we kind of have put roles and system in place that just helps us work on autopilots. And then we also have a team of people helping us as well.
Yes, yes. And just to even add to what she said, there's a conviction too.
Okay.
Because for both of us, we both had to have that personal conviction and then the joint conviction. Because what we realized is that without conviction, everything will just, fizzle out.
Right.
So the conviction helps us. Yes. So that conviction has helped us to continue.
Yeah. And I'm wondering if those systems and structures that you've put in place to make this work, and you also say you have a support team around you that helps, are those similar principles in how your marriage runs?
Well, I mean, yes. In some foundational things, there are some principles we've put down as maybe in terms of communication, in terms of even managing the household, and other things. We basically run on. Some of them are unsaid, some of them we've actually spoken about them, but our marriage runs on those principles.
Okay. So I'm gonna ask you one last question about the Nino and Lulu sort of brand before I get into like the main work here. And I'm really curious, like when I was reading your bio, what do you think it is about what you're sharing with the world that has made you guys grow? I know that the grace of God is definitely there, but there's definitely a need and a hunger for what you're giving to the world. What do you think that is? Like, what do you think it is that people are looking for that you've tapped into? What are they connecting with?
Okay. So I'll speak first and then she will just add as well. So the truth about it is that there's a lot of things that we've not spoken about or we've not said out there. But we believe that there's a revival in the kingdom. And God has placed us in the institution of marriage to revive the institution of marriage. I mean, the institution of marriage has it has just what's the word I will use? People don't take it seriously anymore. And the fact of the matter is that people love love. People actually desire inherently good marriages. But because of things that have happened, media, divorce is celebrated now, things like so. There are a lot of forces working against, marriage, and we just saw that there's this need, for what we do. It was just pretty much plug and play for us.
Yeah, and to add to that is the fact that early enough we learned that each marriage has a purpose. A man and a woman coming together is not just to procreate, but there's a bigger purpose that is bigger than the two of them. And we realize that for both of us, the purpose of our marriage is this: helping people thrive by love and relationships. So at the heart of everything, we always remember that this is why God has brought the both of us together. And sometimes I tease my husband and I say, if he had married somebody else, would the name have rhymed as Nino and Lulu?
I know, right? It just makes sense.
Exactly. So we know that this marriage is destined for this purpose, basically.
Yeah, I'm happy I didn't marry the wrong person.
I know, right? Choice is everything, right?
Yes,
It's such a big decision. And I love what you say, that despite the fact that marriage gets a pretty bad rep these days, and we're very aware of like, what's happening spiritually in terms of like marriage being an institution that's being attacked, right? But that still people are hungry for love, right? And that's something I see very much as a therapist and a relationship coach. Like people are hungry, people want it, and I think very often we haven't been showed the way. I know that definitely growing up, it was like, go to school, go to uni, get a job, get a husband.
Yeah.
And there was really nothing in place in how to date consciously, how to choose. There's a lot of things that were swept under the carpet, you know. So
Yeah.
even just having that talk, like even just hearing people talk about relationships is not something a lot of us grew up seeing.
Yes.
Very true.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Very true. Very true.
All right. So sorry, were you gonna say something?
No. No. No.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay. So I'm gonna ask you some questions now. You ready for me?
Yeah, we're ready.
Are you ready? Okay. Um Actually, I want to start with the joy. Okay. It's because the main reason I wanted to talk to you guys is to help change that narrative around unhealthy relationships, like good marriages don't really exist, all that nonsense, right? So I want to help people see that marriage is something to be enjoyed, not something to be endured, right? So, in your 3 years' experience so far, what would you say the joy of marriage is? Like, what are those little moments that you just feel like, wow, I'm good, I'm happy to be here?
I think we have to answer that individually. Because joy for her might be different from joy for
That's
you.
why I was thinking, right? One person's joy can be another person's pain.
Ladies first.
Okay, so I'll say that for me, what the joy of our marriage has been that I think, and I'm like, wow, I'm so happy I'm here, is the fact that um, he just gets me. There are some times where I'm about to say something, and what I'm about to say, he says it exactly how I was gonna say it. And it's the fact that we just think in a weird way, but weird, but in a good way. So whenever I think about things like that, it's almost like there's no pressure. We just flow properly. And I think for me, that's like my biggest joy. The fact that he gets me, I get him. Well, and the truth is, we did have to work on that, getting
Okay.
each other. But as we have now, it's just been very seamless, and it's made our relationship easy.
Right. So it's something you had to work on,
Yes.
right?
Oh yes.
Well spoken. Well spoken.
Oh yes. We had to work on it.
Okay. What about you?
Okay, for me, I think similar to what she said. One thing that really makes me happy is the fact that it might sound silly, but we're both introverts. So there's never any pressure to, do anything that has to do with facing people that, she's always like, God, we need to do this, we need to do this. And we make a joint decision. In fact, she even pulls me out more than I than I pull her
Really?
out. Yes, now.
Okay.
She tolerates people more than me. I think
Wow.
that's the word.
Okay.
I think that's the word. But I'm just like in my own space, and she understands me, and she accepts me for who I am. And like I think we were talking the other day, I was just like that. We are actually guys. Like we just about the silliest of things, and we really play a lot. So I would really say that it's like we are two friends who just happen to be living together for the
Yeah.
long haul. So one thing that has really increased over the time is our bond, our friendship, and I think that's just the joy for me, being able to like call my guy and not feeling like she will judge me or
Yeah.
things just go south. So that's
Yeah.
it. That's what it
I
has been for us.
I love that. So like from you, the emotional attunement, like he just gets you. You guys are completely in sync. I love the fact that you say it's something you had to work on. Because
Oh
I think when
yes.
a lot of people meet, first of all, you're just like operating on chemistry. It's like, oh, he gets me. No, it's actually
Yeah.
something you have to work on and
Yeah. Yeah.
cultivate, right? Because you're
Yep.
you're both still growing all the time. I think that's really, really amazing. And the fact that you talk about your friendship as well. And I get it, man. My husband, we call him the stud muffin. I call him inside this room. He's my best friend. Like there's nothing I can't do or be, like
Yeah.
I don't have to hold any part of myself back
Yeah.
around him. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and it's something I took for granted until I started speaking to other couples when I realized that there are parts of yourself that you hide from your partner, and that friendship is not there. It's almost like friendship is in one box and the romantic relationship is in another one.
Yeah.
I know that a lot of the work I do with couples as well focuses on that being in sync. You spoke about the emotional attunement, like just really learning how to lean into each other's needs. So I'm glad that you're enjoying it, because once you get it, man, it's nice. It's really nice. Okay. Yeah. So my first question, proper one. Otherwise, I could just sit here and be asking you guys questions all the time. What are some common misconceptions that singles have about marriage, and how would you address that?
Yeah, I can name so many for Africa.
A lot.
Yeah.
I think number one is that singles think that there is the one for you. That
Right.
if you miss that the one, there's not that person on the face of the earth, for you. And even just logically, I mean, what happened to people that have died? Have they lost their the one?
Right.
So it's just, and I think that has been shaped by the media, mainstream media. The princess and queen movies and the magic movies, and say, oh, by this magical event, I found the one for me, my person, that kind of thing. So, I mean, we hate to refute that, but there's no such thing as the one. I think that's one for me. What about you?
One that I think that is very key to notice the fact that singles think that, I think most especially single women, they think once I get married, everything is going to be complete. My marriage or whoever I'm getting married to just completes me, and from there it's just a breeze. Shockingly, no, that's not what happens. No one completes you. You have to be a whole person coming into marriage. And the truth is, I think another one is even the fact that they think that once I get married, I'm going to be happy. All my problems are solved.
Right.
If anything, marriage is not meant to make you happy. It's meant to stretch you, and the stretching doesn't really come with happiness. So
marriage will stretch you in ways that you've never been stretched before. In fact, I think that even when you get into marriage, that's where you will now see that your emotions, you have to, your emotions will stretch, like you've never been stretched before. And we just think that singles just think that there's no conflict, there's no fighting. That once you marry your soulmate,
in a good marriage,
yes, in a good marriage, I've heard a number of people even preaching saying that, oh, me and my wife have never fought in my life, and I'm thinking, you would have argued because you are two people coming from different backgrounds that there's some healthy clashing that is needed for the marriage to progress. It's just the way you handle it that matters. But there will be clashes no matter how much you spend during the so-called talking stage and the dating season. And even if you date for 14 years, 20 years, when you enter, you will know that
different.
night one self, you'll be shocked at the things that I say, like, like, who is this person? I think there was one time where, because I was so used to being by myself and inside, I think I was sitting on the couch one day when we first got married, and my wife just walked by. I was like, wait, how did you get in here? Like, what are you doing inside this house? Like, you are not done
He forgot he got married to me.
You are not done to me that I had a roommate. And it was like, I almost had a panic attack, like, what's happening here? Is this going to continue forever?
Yeah.
So that was really something.
Yeah, it's definitely an adjustment. I remember one of my friends calling me like 2 days after her wedding, and she was in the bathroom and she was like, oh my God. And I'm like, what? She's like, he's like everywhere. Like, he's everywhere I go. I want to go for a walk. He wants to go. Like, is this what marriage is? Like, is this what it's going to be like? And I'm like, yes, it is quite an adjustment to go from your individual life into sharing that with someone. And that thing you said around conflict, I always say conflict is growth trying to happen, and conflict is healthy. Conflict is good because you get to know more about each other, you get to know things that are meaningful to your partner, and there's a lot of problems that people experience because conflict is swept under the carpet. And
Yeah.
particularly for kids in the home, you may not be having the conflict, but they can feel that tension in the
Yeah.
air, you know.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
so yeah, there's definitely, I would say, part of a joyous marriage is healthy conflict. It
Yeah.
brings
Very true.
you
Very true.
closer together, you know.
Yeah.
And to be quite honest, my husband looks so hot when he's angry. I love it. You know, sometimes I forget in the middle of the argument. I'm just like, oh, hey. Like,
I mean,
okay.
that helps.
That helps. It does help when you like the person you're arguing with, you know?
Yes.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what you said about like marriage, people thinking that marriage completing you is definitely one I've seen a lot. Um, I've heard many women go down the path of not just
Mm.
that marriage completing them, you know, making that marriage the end goal, which makes being single
Yeah.
really,
Mhm.
really unpleasant for them because they
Yeah.
feel like there's something wrong with them because they haven't met
Mm.
the one that you were speaking about. You
Yes.
put
Yes.
those
Very true.
two misconceptions
Yeah.
together, and you
Very true.
can honestly have a really, really miserable time when you're single,
Yeah.
Yeah.
if that's
Yeah.
your belief, you know. And I think another one is that when we marry, he will change, or when we
Ah,
marry, she will change. I'm like, baby girl,
Mm.
oh my God.
no. What you see
We've had
now
our
is
fair
only
share
going
of
to
that.
be, yeah, you've seen
Yep.
that. Tell me.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Had our fair share of that. I mean, it was. I think at first it was. I think she tried to change me at first. Then I now try to change later on. You know, so it's just like when we're dating, she was just like, okay, no problem, let's marry first. This this thing that you keep wearing every time, you're not going to wear it anymore. And I was like, who is this person that is trying to change me? You know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then I also expected some level of change in some areas that no,
Mm-hmm.
this is not allowed inside this marriage. No, 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 no. You know, so
Mm-hmm.
we had that one was in fact that's the first thing you would most likely meet in marriage when it's like no I'm trying to tailor you to what's my perfect
Yeah.
spouse for the world to see. So it's like
Right.
I think women especially have more of that tendency. They like to
Mm-hmm.
fix things and change things and like you can't be growing a beard, you have to be clean shaven, you have to
No,
be
we
this, you have
make
to,
things better. We
yes you
do.
Yes, we
do,
do
I
actually.
mean, I
yes you
think my
do.
husband is a lot finer since he married me. You know,
I
by
can
the
attest
time
to
he
that
had
too.
that
My
baby
husband is a
touch,
lot
yes.
finer.
I agree.
Uh-huh.
I agree. It's just that the initial approach is very like, hello. I mean, you
Yeah.
saw me this way when we got married to this. So I think
Yeah.
it's the approach that
Yeah.
matters.
Yeah.
It's the approach that matters. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I'm feeling like someone is trying to encroach on your authentic side.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Especially if you've been living by yourself and you're a single person, you're like, this is where I've been doing things. Why are you just coming to
Yeah.
change
Mm-hmm.
up, you know? But I think once you
Yeah.
get the approach right, you will see. I think I've looked back 2 years and I'm like, I actually married a fine man. Thanks to you, like she has helped me become finer, you know. So, and I'm like, you
Yeah.
try.
And you know,
You know, so
it's
yeah.
those little things though, learning how to have those conversations, learning how to have those
Yes.
little
Yes, yes,
arguments
yeah.
that actually brings you closer. But it gets deeper, this thing of he will change in marriage. What I mean is like when you see things like red flags in a person that you're
Exactly.
trying to ignore. You know, there's some things in marriage that we can always work on. Like, I didn't like the shoes my husband was wearing when we got married, and you know, I just had my way of, we do things like that. Those are playful things that you work
Yeah,
on, but there's some fundamental things in a person
yeah.
Just
that will
gonna change.
That will
never
never change.
change.
Yeah.
And I think it's so important to really understand that and know what you're getting into, because some people think that once you have that marriage that all of a sudden you're going to have some Disney prince, when actually when you were single he
Yeah.
never showed you that in the first place, and
Yeah.
you just like ignore these red flags and think
Yes,
that
exactly.
the marriage is a magic wand that will change him into someone who's
Yes,
all green flags.
yes, 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 yes.
Yeah. Okay. So, what advice would you give to singles who are hesitant about committing to marriage, because of the bad rep that marriage gets? So we're doing PR for joyful marriages today. What would you say to those people?
Okay. Can you go first, Council?
I think I would say the first thing is getting to the roots. If someone is hesitant to get married, there must be something they've seen, like you said, because of bad marriages. So, what exactly is the thing that you've seen that makes you feel like, you know what, marriage isn't for me, right? Once we know that, then we know how to reshape your mindset or know how to bring in new information. But we need to, I believe that we need to know what is making you hesitant towards marriage. First of all, let's get to that first, and then what you
Yeah, I think once you identify that, you then need to heal. A lot of people are taking unhealed wounds into marriage, and they are bleeding on others within marriage. So it's like people, once they are in love, they just forget that I actually have work to do, and they expect the work from their own partner. But if both parties actually realize that, I don't even think it's just Africans. If you've grown up in this world, you have one trauma or the other from somewhere. And you need to, Africans especially, but you need to be able to find out, okay, if I'm hesitant for marriage, yes, did I see a divorce? Did I go up in a broken marriage? And then after you do that, you now need to work on yourself to heal. Most people don't want to see therapists. Most people don't want to talk about their thoughts. They are protecting it, and then they now carry it into marriage. So when you now heal, you now have to start working on the things that that marriage actually requires, the institution of marriage. You can't just walk in, okay, I'm a healed man, and then just walk in without any skill set. Like, there's actually a competence for marriage before you even decide that you want to get in. So it's a step-by-step process. And most people shouldn't be thinking about it in the stages that they are in.
Yeah. And then just to top that off, I think after you do that, because there's so much bad press about marriage, a lot of people getting in quickly, getting out quickly, and that's really what the media projects. But one thing that we did was when we're going to get married, we intentionally looked for marriages that we know that we're working. And we fed on those marriages, because whatever you focus on is what amplifies. So instead of looking at the bad ones, intentionally look for the people who look like, and not just look like, but you can see evidences and traces of a good marriage, and focus on that. And eventually you realize, okay, my mindset about this is changing because I've seen a couple that is doing it, and they're doing well at it.
That's really, really important. It's one thing I say to people a lot, because people come and see me and they're like, oh, did you hear this just about this couple or that this person did, like just all the stuff on Instagram, on Twitter, like just slating relationships. And I'm like, why are you following that?
You never hear someone come to say, oh, those guys just reached 40 years in marriage. Wow, that's exciting. Nah, you never hear people say that.
Yeah. So it's really, what you said about what you focus on grows. That's part of, I think that's part of the reason why, like, even in the work I do, typically as a therapist, it shouldn't be about me, but a lot of the times I do showcase some of the joy of my life, because I realize that it's very difficult for someone to have a vision. So a lot of single people will have this vision of what they want for marriage, but deep down inside, they don't believe that it is possible because they haven't seen that it is possible. I remember when my husband and I used to do, like, be part of the couples program for our church about 8 years ago, and we'd have the premarital couples come into our home, and we'd have like dinners, and we just talk and just go through everything with them. And for a lot of them, that one dinner was really impactful for them. I remember a young guy, like practically in tears. It was actually because of that guy that I decided I'm going to go and study to become an integrative psychotherapist. Because for example, even just having a male and a female sitting at the table together was something that he had never grown up seeing. So like just what I saw as normal in my home seemed like a fantasy to him. and it was such a relief for him to see that. And it was also his first time, even in front of his fiancée, that he had been given a safe space to talk and explore certain things, you know. So I do think that it's great for people to be able to expose themselves
Yeah.
to what you want, even if you haven't grown up experiencing it. You know, there are
Yeah.
other people out there who are just wanting to share that joy with you.
Yeah.
I call myself a love warrior. And then we have the Nino, what do we call the Nino and Lulu fans?
We've
The
not talked about it,
thrivers.
so
The thrivers.
Well,
Yeah.
that is good.
that's a good one.
Oh my God. Okay. How do you keep your spark alive and continue to grow together as a couple? I mean, 3 years in, what's that like?
Yeah, it's been intentionality all the way.
Mm-hmm.
It's been us intentionally making some decisions. So, for example, last year, yeah, just at the end of last year, one of the goals we had written down for the year was that we would go out at least once a month to just somewhere new, do something new, right? And that's because we realized that both of us are homebodies. We can be in our house for maybe 365 days in a year and we'll be okay, right? And while that is good, we realize that there is a need for us to, always try something new. It kind of just, it brings a bit of a freshness, exactly. So we had made that intentional decision. And then something else that we try to do is to talk. Always talk about the mundane things, about the big things, about the little things. Talk and play a lot.
Yes. We focus on the. We're listening to something the other day, and the person speaking about it, our pastor, had said that communication is the blood of every relationship, and that never left us.
Yeah.
Like just the way the blood is to the human being. Without blood, you're finished. So we had to make sure that communication is like a major thing in our marriage. Like she said, the most mundane things, the most unserious things, like we play at the oddest times. In fact, she's always looking for my trouble in the oddest,
Not
at the
true.
oddest places.
Not true.
You know, and if you see us outside, you'll be like, why are these guys playing like this? You know, but that's one thing that we try to do. You know, to just keep that spark alive. And like she mentioned, going out more, change of scenery. You know, so
Yeah, change of scenery is very important, you know, experiencing new things together, you know. Otherwise, sometimes
yes,
it just can be a bit dry. I can tell you
yes,
that,
actually,
yeah. So I'm glad that you do that, you know. Um, I know that when we became parents, it got to a stage when we would have like a time together, like where we would be like, we need to not talk about the children. Like, where we, do you know what I mean? Like, because that's, you know, it just becomes about like the house and the kids, and it's like,
exactly.
okay, you know, I still call, it took me a very long time to call my husband, because to me he's my
Yeah.
boyfriend. Do you know what I mean? It's like you're still my man, you're still my lover,
Exactly. You want to keep
I'm still
yourself in
your
that.
babe. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's very difficult because my kids are just so
Mm.
adorable and amazing. So I could talk about them forever. But it's things like that, like making that conscious effort to just protect that time for both of you as a
Because a lot of
couple.
things will come for it.
Yeah, yeah, you know, like I mean, there was even a time when I realized that all we do is talk about work, you know.
Yeah.
So like it's just really even just protecting that time and just remembering
Yeah.
the is it in the songs of Solomon where he talks about the lover of your youth, you know, like just remembering. And I love that
Yeah.
about the playfulness as well, you know, because I see a lot
Yes.
of marriages where like, you know, they met in my generation anyway, you know, they met in school, like uni, whatever. And the minute, you know, the husband or the wife starts getting some accolades, we are now the chief
Mm.
CFO of this and that. And it's almost like that comes into the marriage. as
Yeah, it
well.
becomes formal, more formal than it should be.
Yeah, really formal. And, I remember growing up and there were some couples I would look at them and it's like, I can't imagine them being young,
Yes, 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 yes.
Yeah, and I know that part of that is culture as well, because we have a very, we have respect and reverence.
Yeah, functional culture that doesn't leave room
Yeah,
for, for fluidity, then
yeah,
marriage.
yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
So, I mean, you just doing that right now is really, really going to benefit you when you
Yeah.
reach my side. Hopefully you'll still be playing and finding each other's trouble.
Amen.
So, in fact, once we get to that new phase of children and everything, we'll be disturbing you every night.
Please
Yeah,
do.
how do you do this? How do you do that?
Please do. Please
So we can
do.
also learn.
Scott and I would love to pour into you and also learn from you as well, It's a never growing it's a
Yeah.
never growing process,
Mhm.
I'm trying to pick my next question. Okay, in terms of shared goals and values, right? Before you got married, was that like something both of you were looking for? Like, how did you know you had those shared goals and values?
But funny enough, the fact is that which even brings us to some other topics. I mean, it's just God has helped us.
Yes.
Because there are some mistakes that we made getting into marriage that
should have
cost us.
Yeah.
And thankfully God helped us change it around and turn it around. It's just so merciful because even the values, I think most of our dating period, we were just going on dates and ice cream and talking about the most mundane things.
And unrelated.
Exactly. It's not when we got into marriage. We're not like, come on, what do you even value? Like, what actually are your values? Do you understand? So I think I'd shared with her something I'd written down before. I think I had like personal values that I'd always, stuck by, integrity, discipline, and things like that. And she also told me the things that mean a lot to her. That, in fact, friendship is one of her top values inside marriage.
Right.
And apparently that was not inside mine at the time.
Yeah.
I was like, which one is friendship? What are you talking
So
about?
what was your
friendship?
top value then?
Mine was respect. It was integrity. It was discipline.
You know something?
It was excellence. I was very, very like.
What is it with men and respect? Do you know every guy, like when I counsel couples within your age range,
Yeah.
for the guys it's respect. So it's a big thing, obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was like, I think there was a time when she was like, oh, that she wants there to be that she always envisioned her marriage as fresh. I said, I'm not your friend. I'm like,
Am I your mate?
I said, block me. I said, where did you get this notion for that? I said, is that friendship in the Bible? What are you talking about?
Sarah called Abraham Lord.
What do you mean? This was at the beginning stages of marriage, like friendship.
I was
I'm thinking about it like friendship. What is she talking about? Like, this is serious business. Our marriage cannot fail. We cannot bring friendship into it. We have to put structures. I was very, very, so
we thank God.
we thank the Lord.
Yeah.
I had a myopic view of marriage.
Yeah, but I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
I'm not surprised. Like, I'm just thinking about, there's not a lot of people around the time when I was growing up in Nigeria where, that grew up, that saw their parents as friends. Not even a lot of children that saw the friendly side of their parents, like you can't be your full self as a child around your parent. Because your parents and them, so it's really seen as like a partnership. It's almost like a business, and we're going to get together, we're going to provide for these children, we're going to send them to school, and that's it. So where does friendship and a lot, I mean, like, I remember when I went back to Niger as like, a fresh new wife in 2005. Like, even back then, it was like at weddings and everything, all the guys would be on one table,
And the
All the
wives will be
wives.
somewhere.
Yes,
Yeah.
in fact, they even go separately. So, like, I remember, like, when me and my husband coming together, they were looking at us like,
Like, what's wrong with these people?
what's
They don't
wrong
know
with
what they're
these
here for.
people? You know? Yeah. So it's not. But I thank God. I think it's changing a lot now from what I
There's
grew up with.
more material. Yeah, there's more material out there talking about friendship, and one thing that actually helped us is that we made sure that we watched a lot of YouTube videos like Pastor Kingsley and Pastor Mildred. They are mentors, so we made sure
They're
that we watched a lot of their they're amazing. We watched a lot of their stuff and their material, so that also helped because we both had maybe similar marriages that we saw, maybe in a different way. We didn't really see that friendship. So she made up her mind that her own marriage must have friendship.
Exactly.
For me,
You followed what
I
you
followed
saw.
what I saw. There are some things I didn't want, but I saw that this is how my father was perceived, and that's how I should be perceived. So we had the same thing, but it had different effects on us.
Yeah.
And
Which is
same
what
things.
experiences do.
Yes.
You either stick to what you've experienced or you go against what you've experienced. You
Exactly.
don't want that.
Exactly. Yeah.
I'm really moved by your humility. Because, like, for you to be able to come here and say, oh, like, I mean, now that you're saying it, probably even sounds silly, like being like you guys are like bros, right? She's your guy.
Yeah.
But like, even for you to be able to say that humility is very necessary in marriage, to be able to actually look at yourself. And especially as someone where you're coming in and you're saying your top value was respect, hers
Yeah.
was friendship. A lot of the men I speak to, tell me the same thing. It's like, and coming from that very almost like macho masculine way of thinking that our men are raised to think, for you to also have that humility to say that maybe there's another way. And
yes, I
you
make
know,
a
like,
360 turn.
yeah, it's really amazing. And I can see that both of you really take your union, like this institution of marriage, seriously, because you invest your time in studying. Like, it's like, okay, even if they didn't give this to us, we were
Work for
going to
it.
go and find our own way, and you invest that time into it, which is just, it's amazing. Like, I think a lot of people, like couples, can spend time together,
Yeah.
but they're not spending time on their marriage. Just like you can spend a lot of time with your children and not actually be spending quality time investing in that relationship. It's like, this is your
Yes. I mean,
gold, like this is your
yes.
treasure,
Yes.
and you really want to get the best out of it. And I
Yeah.
really love that.
Thank you.
Thank
You know, one thing I would even say is that as we started this YouTube thing and everything, and when God literally was telling us that He's going to pour our life out for people, and we now dawned on us that we can't give what we don't have.
Yeah.
If we're telling people to do all these things out there, we don't talk about what we have not practiced. But most people don't know that. They always like, I just want to just giving advice, just giving advice, just giving advice. So we had to go through a lot of quarrels so that people won't go through those quarrels. We had to read some material so that we can give people, so that we can preempt some of the issues that we faced and we saw growing up. So part of what helped us is that we knew that there was a higher calling. And one thing we hate in our life is when somebody is saying that we are frauds. Like these people are not. They're
Who are
not
they?
practicing what.
Send me their phone number and address. Let me go and
They are
knock
on
their head
social
for you.
media.
Ignore them.
So I think that was it. We had to actually invest time and money to buy this material, to to do all these things so that we can actually give, to give out. So that's what has helped us. So we have to be honest with ourselves, anyways.
Yeah. I remember in my psychotherapy training, they always say you can't take your client where you've never been, even emotionally. Like, if you're not the kind of person that can cry, you will not give space to your client to cry. And then I'm also thinking of in the Bible where it says remove the speck before you remove the speck in someone else's eye.
Yes, very true, very true. And to even add to that, I remember a quote that I was reading by John Maxwell, and he was talking about leadership, and he said that you can either be one of two things. You can either be a travel agent who actually books tickets and sends you on the journey where he hasn't been to. Or you can be a tour guide, which is we are
Right.
taking people on a tour. You've been there a million times. So you're actually taking them. If you listen to tour guides, they have so much knowledge about it. And we decided that we're going to be tour guides, not travel agents. Say, just do this, just do that. And that was really also helped. That also helped us.
That's amazing. I mean, you're putting yourselves in such a vulnerable position, it can be, but I know who is backing you, so I know that nothing can harm you, but it is, and like I said the first time that I met you, the weapons will form but they will not prosper.
Oh yes.
But I just love how intentional you are about it, and I think that was what was really struck me. It's not like you're coming here and saying that, look, we are the experts, we are the perfect Disney prince and princess. It's like we are walking this thing, we are trying our best, we are learning, we are investing in our marriage, and this is what we're sharing with you, and just being really humble about that, is really, really amazing. So I think we've got about 10 minutes left.
Really?
Wow,
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We thought we're just getting started.
Exactly.
Well, I've got time if you've got time, but I wanted to respect your time. I had budgeted like an hour. What I'm really curious about, when we're talking about those values, I want to hear the real tea on that courtship. First of all, who made the first move? Who? Because both of you are a very good-looking couple, I have to say. But I hear that a certain gentleman is more handsome now because of the changes his wife made. But having said that, who made the first move?
So when we met each other, right?
Yes.
How did you even meet? I'm like so
The fact
curious.
about it is that my wife can have some selective
Very.
so she has her own part of the story, and I have the truth. And I'm just going to say the truth on her behalf. So
Okay.
there was, I think it was 2019. There was this yard sale. There was this friend that I had. She was in the fashion industry, and she had this yard sale at a particular restaurant called South Cafe. And she had invited us for the 3-day yard sale. And
Invited
me and my friends. And to be very honest, I didn't want to go because it's like I have to meet people, So, but I just, dragged my feet, and then I eventually went there, and I got in there with my friends, and we were looking and everything. And then I just saw one babe at the far corner, minding her business, but she was like staring at me, and I'm like, what's this babe staring at me? Like, what's this all about? But I won't lie, I fancied her. So basically, I saw her see me see her.
Oh.
So, and luckily for me, I went to meet the person that invited me, and I was like, who's that girl over there? She was like, I remember she was wearing some black dungarees and pink sneakers. And, I think you were on braids that day.
Yes.
Yeah, she was on braids. Just looked so beautiful. And I was like, who's that babe? And she was like, no, sir, that's fantastic. In fact, she's my styling assistant. You will love her. She loves Jesus like you. That was the first thing she said. Say, you will love her. She loves Jesus like you. So she now called her, and then I now introduced myself. And then I was like, I'd like to be your friend. And she said, no, very, very, like any friend of, because the girl's name is Jane. She said, any friend of Jane is a friend of mine. I said, what's this one that you're speaking? Do you want to be friends? Which one is any friend of Jane is a friend of mine? She was just
be polite.
She was trying to form.
I like to be polite.
So
Wait,
I
so
took
Nata,
her
you asked her if she wanted to be your
Yes, I said I
friend.
would like to be your friend. I said I would like to be your friend.
So you're the one that set the precedent for friendship as a value then.
If I say I want to be your friend, you can say yes or no. Which one is any friend of Jane is a friend of mine? It's an open exchange.
Be polite. I don't want to
be polite. Anyways, I collected her number, and she later would tell me that whole night she was waiting for me to call. I had to also, form, like, I'm not desperate, and also I waited like 24, 48 hours. And then I eventually called. I could just hear the joy in her voice when I called.
Oh,
and the rest is history.
Oh,
and
really?
The rest is history. That's the truth.
That's the truth. Okay.
Yes, that's the truth.
Okay.
So we were friends for 3 years before we got married.
Oh, really?
3 years. It was 2 years.
Was it 2 years? No, we were friends for 2 years and we dated for 1.
Okay.
Yes, we were friends for 2 years and we dated for 1. And you see, I actually wanted to be her friend. But hey, nobody believes me.
Lulu, what's your version?
As a respectful wife that I am, I would never come out to say my husband lied. However, I do believe that my husband might have missed a few details. So I'm just going to like throw more light on what he said. You know.
Okay. Go ahead.
Truthfully, we did meet at a yard sale that I was volunteering at. And when he came in with a group of other guys, and immediately, truthfully, I had spotted him. I was like, oh, this guy looks calm. Because he came in with a group of guys, and the other guys looked like, talk about a better word, Lagos.
Oh dear. Hi guys, if you are with us, Nino and Lulu, I think there's some tech issue. I'm going to wait a couple of minutes and pause this recording and see if they're able to come back. Thank God for technology because you guys are in Nigeria, I'm in the UK, and we're connecting. So before we got cut off, you were speaking about how you met each other.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, so did you hear till he was done?
Yeah, I heard him, and then you were giving your version as a respectful wife.
Okay.
That doesn't disagree.
So yes, I was saying that. So yeah, I had noticed him come in, and when he came in with a group of guys, and just noticed that he just looked very calm. He was the calmest person amongst the group of guys, and that was it. And I went back to work. It didn't stick that this guy is a fine guy. I mean, yeah, he was a fine looking guy. Wait, now I'm not done with the story. So it did register like, this guy is a cute guy, and that was it. And then I went on with my work. I didn't know that he had been checking me out all through the events, right? And then that was when he then called me to ask for my number. And truthfully, I didn't want to seem like a rude person. So that's why I made the statement, any friend of Jane is my friend, because I didn't want to look like, I don't want to give this guy my number.
Yeah.
And that was it. And he said he was going to call, but he didn't call. And I didn't put my mind to it because I was really busy. But he called like 24 hours later anyway. And that was how we met. That's how we truly met. And then we just became friends. Yeah.
Okay. So how did you know that you had met your person? That this is the person I want to spend the rest of my life with? You said you were friends for about 2 years first?
Yeah, about 2 years. 2019, yes.
I think she knew before me. She always knew.
No, you actually told me that you knew I was the one, but I can speak for myself, and I'm saying, truthfully, when I saw him, something witnessed in my spirit. I heard him. It sounds very very funny, but I did hear a voice saying, "This is your husband," right? And I shot it aside because I was like, okay, But that was how I knew that I was going to end up with this person. Although we had like some bumps here and there during our friendship, but I think I stuck to that.
Okay. Was there anything, what would have been your non-negotiable in looking for a partner that you want to spend the rest of your life with? Did you have like, non-negotiables, deal breakers, or?
Oh yes. For me, so the truth is I didn't know what I wanted, but I knew what I didn't want. I knew that I didn't want a guy who didn't have a spiritual relationship, or who didn't have a relationship with God. That was number one or two for me, because growing up, I'd seen a lot of women being the spiritual cover for their homes, and I didn't want to bear that burden. I wanted someone that was equally or even more spiritual than I was. So that was one thing. Secondly, I wanted somebody who would actually listen to me. Because of the marriage that I had seen, the woman was always just dedicated somewhere, and then it was always, I'm the man of the house, you cannot speak when I'm speaking, your opinion doesn't count. So I wanted that collaboration, which is where the friendship was, which is why friendship was very, very key for me. So I knew I wanted friendship. I knew I wanted someone who was godly. I wanted somebody who I was physically attracted to. That was the number one, to be very honest. And then I think those were like the three key things for me. Right. And somehow I think the rest God helped me deal with. So when people say they had a list, I didn't really have a list. I just had those three key things for me.
Yeah. I'd say that was quite similar to me, actually. It was more of like, I knew what I did not want, and I knew what I would not settle for in any kind of relationship, and I held on to that more than what I wanted. Because sometimes when you're going for, women come to me with all sorts of lists, and you're going for what you want, you overlook the things that are the necessary ingredients that's going to hold that relationship together. So for me, it was very much like there were just some things that were absolutely non-negotiable. For me to even be your friend, talk less of your as in, in relationships. And I think that was just a blessing of something I knew when I was very, very young, Yeah. What about you, Nosa? Did you have any?
First of all, I had physical spec was there. I already knew the type of woman physically I wanted. In fact, my whole family already knew that. They introduced me to a girl, and she didn't have that particular aspect.
Right.
I was never going to pattern island, So, but more importantly, I wanted someone that I didn't have to force to love Jesus or love God or go to church. I just had their own conviction and actually feared God. Different between being a Christian and actually fearing God. So somebody who the decision she makes, she still has that witness that God won't be happy with this, And that was a relationship she built on her own. I didn't want to have to carry that burden. Number two, I wanted someone who was warm and caring. My wife is one of the most caring people I know. Sometimes caring to a fault, it annoys me, But I wanted someone who was caring and selfless, because I know that I have some flaws, and for me to be better, I wanted someone who was most like I prior to marriage, I could be a very selfish person. I didn't really care much for some certain things, but my wife is the opposite. She is very selfless. She's very caring. And lastly, I don't know if I've told her, but I wanted someone that was actually like my mom. I had some characteristics that my mom had. Because I saw my wife, my mom was an excellent wife for and everybody has their flaws, their ups and downs, but the picture of what I saw my mom to be, I wanted someone that had that. If you meet my mom and you meet my wife, you're probably like, this was actually exactly like, I tell her a lot of times, like, gosh, you sound so much like my mom. Yeah, because I had a very good relationship with my mom growing up. So I wanted someone that actually had
some of those qualities that you'd
some of those qualities.
That's actually a huge compliment. Because
yeah,
my mother is the best.
Oh, and that's so nice and refreshing to hear, you know. So, I mean, you guys said we didn't really have a lot of shared values, but actually you did. So obviously Christianity and
Yeah,
spirituality is a
yeah,
was a very key shared value for the both of you, right?
yeah,
And I love that you said, Nasa, that you know, someone that actually fears God and has a relationship with them. You know, because for
yeah,
some people, this may not be a shared value, but it's something that
yeah,
was important to
yeah,
you. Because, you
yes,
know, there's a lot of people that make decisions based on because he's a Christian, because she's a Christian.
Mhm.
But are you
Yeah,
walking the walk and talking the talk?
exactly.
Because, you
Very
know,
true. He actually led by the spirits.
yes, you know, because it really breaks my heart when I see, and like I've said, no home is perfect. All our parents and uncles and aunties have done the best that they can with what they have, and they've probably given us even more than what they had. But it
Yeah,
still breaks my heart when I see people who call themselves Christian treat their wives with disrespect, without
yeah.
care. Like, this is someone that God values. You know, this is each person is valued by God. So when I see there's often a clash between what the fear of God and Christianity is, there's a clash between that and then typical African culture
Yeah,
as
Yeah.
well.
they mix people practice Christianity through the lens of
So
culture.
culture.
You know
Yeah.
how
Mm,
they were raised. So when you hear like maybe the man is the head of the home, what does culture dictate that the head of the home should be?
yes.
And
Yeah.
growing up, people usually didn't preach about what the man is meant to do, which is love your
Mm,
wife. They usually preach more
What
mm,
about the
women
women
should do.
because it's like Christianity was brought by men, you know, and men
mm,
were the one teaching. So I mean, I'm not
mm-hmm,
going to talk about the work I need to do. I'm going to talk about the work that she needs to do. You know,
mm-hmm,
so our culture has influenced that over time. And
mm-hmm.
when you hear someone say that, like you said, I mean, Christian, and you hear some things that some men say, and I'm like, is this man a Christian? That's how I
Mm,
now realize. That's why, if you notice what I said there's one thing being a Christian, which is associating yourself with Jesus, you accepted him, and there's another thing with you actually fearing God.
mm-hmm.
It's two different things because when
Yeah.
you are saved, there's a work that you actually need to do to actually be a good Christian. And a
Yeah.
lot of men just stop at being saved. We go to church and that's
Mm-hmm.
it. And women as well. So it's
Yeah.
it's it's,
Yeah.
it's uh,
And it's really important because, you know, I think God really does want us to enjoy relationships. He doesn't
yeah.
want us to be separate from one another. He wants us to have unity together and with him and to have healthy relationships, you know. So, you know, honestly, what you guys are doing is really, really encouraging. It really, really is. Like, to have that fear of God and that love for Jesus and not using it and abusing it, right? Which is what you were saying. Like, you're saying, like, I love God, I love Jesus, but look at how you're treating your wife, look at how you're treating your kids. You know, you're walking the talk. And what really comes across from both of you is really this humility that I think can only come when you do fear God,
Yeah.
right? It's that humility to say, I'm not perfect, I don't know it all, but I want to do this thing by the grace of God, you know. It's I think that in a lot of homes, um the parents or the fathers or mothers, whoever is in charge, becomes like a god in the house, you know. um
Yeah.
and the example of that leadership that they're showing, I'm like, God is not even like that. Like, God is a merciful God, he's a
He gives
loving
this
God, he's a
his view of
forgiving
God.
God, he's a compassionate God. Like, this kind of God that you are doing fire and brimstone on your wife and children, I don't
Yeah.
you know, I don't understand. But again, I think a lot of them were taught Christianity from the lens of patriarchy and African culture, you know.
I think
Yeah.
most people did not get past Malachi in the Bible. They just stopped from Genesis to Malachi. So they forgot the part where Jesus actually came and revealed how God was in human form. So most people don't want to know that part. They just stop. God is the consuming fire. And the picture called the husband Lord, you know, that kind of thing. And Sarah went to the house and cooked food and brought to Sarah, to Abraham and the angels. because that's where they stop their own marriage orientation from.
Yeah.
This culture.
Yeah. It's really, so that was a shared value. The fact that, and then you also say that she reminds you of your mom. And I don't know if you guys know about imago theory, like this theory that says that we end up somehow seeking appearance in our romantic partners. And therefore, you can end up marrying your unmet childhood needs, which is why, do you know what I mean? And it's not always a bad thing. The fact that you recognize those awesome qualities about the woman, because who else is supposed to teach you about being a wife, and that example that you have, and the fact that you were able to see that and say, this is good, and I can now look for something like this in a partner. That's very powerful. I know that God, before my husband and I got married, we used to talk. We talked and talked. I don't even think we used to sleep. We'd just be talking. Talk. I mean, these days by 11 p.m. it's even hard to stay awake. But back in those days, we had energy. We could talk. And we really spoke about our childhood experiences, about growing up. And we spoke about like the things we loved that we grew up seeing, the things that were important to us that we saw in our childhood homes, the things that we wanted to take forward into our home, and the things that we wanted to leave behind or improve on, So it sounds like that's part of what you've done, is like you've looked and you've said, oh, this is good. I want to replicate this. And I think that's how we create generational change. It's like we take that good and we just keep trying to make it better and work on the things that weren't so great for us,
Self-awareness is the best step to change. You have to know what is working and what's not before you can even change it. So
So in terms of self-awareness, Lulu, would you have said that before you got married you were quite self-aware? I mean, like, I'm assuming you were, because part of your job is working with people, no?
Nope.
Really?
A big huge no.
Okay.
Actually, and it's so funny that a lot of things I learned about myself, my husband was almost spotted them while we were dating. So I was not self-aware at all. If anything, I was just I think I can say that I was coasting through life, based off, and the identity I had was the identity that was passed on to me, from my parents or from people around me that would say, "Oh, this is how you are. Or this is how you behave." So I never really had a self-reflection to say, okay, these are the things I like, these are the things I don't like, this is how I speak, this is how I do this or do that, So I wasn't very self-aware. My husband actually taught me how to be self-aware. And then now going forward to even being a certified counselor, some of the classes some of the classes that I took were classes on self-awareness. You can't give what you don't have. And for me to be able to help other people, I need to know who I am. So that helped me, and also my relationship with God, strengthening my relationship with the Holy Spirit. He also taught me a lot of things about my identity. So yeah, I think now I can say I'm actually self-aware. But the prior marriage, no, not at all.
That's quite a powerful point, because I do say to like my Christian clients, when they struggle with that self-identity, and you can go through life where people have told you who you are or who you're supposed to be. And I mean, this thing can follow you. Like, I'm talking like even people in their 40s and 50s having conversations like this with me. And yes, you may not all, not everyone can be into personal development, self-awareness, although I highly recommend, but at the same time, I think just go and look and see who God says you are. Right? Sometimes that's very necessary, because people will speak words over you. People will have expectations of you. The world will make demands of you, who you are as a woman, as a girl, as a boy, as a husband, as a this, and just knowing who God says you are. And for me, I would say that my identity is that I am loved, period. That's just it. I don't care what else is going on in the world with the ups and downs. I just know that I am loved, that I was created exactly the way I am to be loved and to give love. That's the simplest point of self-identity that I have, that I build a lot of everything else on, so like just even and the thing is, like, that identity, there's a core one, but then it changes over time as well.
Yes.
Like who you are now, the both of you, maybe life will shape that identity, and it's like, what do you hold on to? What part of you is going to just stay the same, and some parts are going to have to change along the way as well.
Very true. Very true. I think identity is very important to our foundation as human beings and in everything we do. In fact, if you don't have a healthy self identity, you would do things that you shouldn't do. You would take on opportunities that you shouldn't take on. You would speak or relate to people that you shouldn't relate with. Even our what we do, there's some level of identity about what it is that we do. We have scriptural backing as to what we do, so that way we look at opportunities and we know the ones we're not even going to take. Like there are some adverts we see that many couples do, and I'm like, it can never be us. Even if they give us $1 million, our identity will not allow us to do this type of thing. So having a solid, identity as individuals and as a couple, which means there are some things that I can hear tomorrow that my wife did, I know that is a lie. And some same thing as well with her. That this is not, it cannot be possible. You're lying. So what you said is actually very, 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 very key. Yeah.
Right. So knowing who you are, right, and you're not blowing whichever way the wind blows, and you make your decisions in life based on that. Like, if this thing does not really gel with who I am as an individual or who we say we are as a couple, we're not going to do that. That's very wise. Very, very wise of you guys. So as we begin to wrap up now, I'm really enjoying this chat. Like, I feel like I could keep gisting with you guys. We have to definitely stay in touch. Do you have any questions for me?
For you, of course, we have a lot of questions. Some would ask offline, but I see that you have, I think, a lot of certifications, and you said you were a psychotherapist, and that you were a mother-daughter therapist and all. First of all, how did you come about, these certifications? Because I'm sure the certifications that you did was because of something that you saw yourself doing in the future. And why especially the mother-daughter, niche out of every other thing that you could be doing?
Okay, so first of all, I started life out. I did economics and management in university. Wasn't really my calling. And when I moved to Nigeria, I was in the food industry, so catering and events, etc., etc. My husband and I moved around a lot, though. We lived in Nigeria, we lived in Ghana, we lived in Scotland, we lived in London. Anyway, when we had my kids and I started volunteering through the church with the couples, we had actually started it in Ghana, and then we moved to the UK, had to change churches again. I really enjoyed it, right? And I've always been someone who, friends and people tend to talk to a lot. And like you guys say, like, people want to learn about relationships. I also think because I got married quite young, so my marriage was probably the first one a lot of my friends had seen that close up, right? So I used to get a lot of questions. When we started working with these couples, like I told you about that boy, there was just something in him that moved me so much. And I realized that some of these kids need deeper work, that there's some healing, and I wanted to be able to offer that safe space, right? It so happened to be that my children were getting to a stage where they were more independent. And so I went back to go and study for 3 years to do the integrative psychotherapy. Now, when I started doing that, I also realized that, bearing in mind that I was trained in the UK, so a lot of the theories are Eurocentric, right? Um, and I realized that when people are coming to talk to me, whether they're singles or whether it's just, a couple, whatever, that there was a lot in women about how they saw themselves that had to do with the relationship with their mothers. And I think in Western psychology, it's very much about the father. It's very much about patriarchy. It leaves a lot of that, a lot of those theories actually shame and blame women, right? So if you're thinking that as a woman, my identity is wrapped in being a wife and a mother, and as a wife and a mother, I'm supposed to do this. And anything happens to the child, the mother gets the blame. This child has anxiety because the mother was, because she has attachment issues, all sorts, and it was really a relationship that I wanted to help women with, because how you see yourself as a woman, as a wife, as a friend, has a lot to do with your relationship with your mother, what you learned from her, what was passed down to her, what kind of socioeconomic background she grew up in. Like there was so much in it. So that's why I went further on to go and do that mother-daughter training, and also taking into account the different cultural perspectives as well that shapes women. It's like when I'm speaking to some of my colleagues who don't have experience of being Nigerian or being Black, where they have clients who come in and say, I have these issues growing up, I would find that a lot of them were very much jumping on the bandwagon of, just sever that relationship. And I'm like, no, you can work on those relationships. Some relationships can be repaired. There is like a huge amount placed on family where I come from, so there was just too much that hadn't been covered by that training. It was a fantastic training I did, but I needed to do more. And, I'm also like, right now I'm with the Relationship Coaching Institute doing singles coaching. Like, it doesn't stop with the mother-daughter therapy. Mother-daughter therapy is a tool I use in all my sessions, right? But it doesn't stop there. I am constantly and will always be developing myself professionally and personally, because I'm just interested in relationships and people, and I really just want to serve my clients, So that was a long-winded answer. Sorry.
But I do have a question for you. When we had spoken earlier, you had mentioned how I think you 30 years or more in marriage now.
20.
My question is 22. Okay, yes, 20 and above. Yes. My question will be, how have you been able? Because when I hear you talk about your husband, it's almost like your love is still you guys just met, and it's still so fresh. It's still so new.
I mean, it's not, you didn't marry an African man.
Exactly.
So that also is
and like the whole ball game entirely. So my question is, how have you both been able to stay married, and not just married but happily married? Because from what we see, that relationship and that happiness is there. And was there ever a time that it was never like that? And if so, how were you able to transcend into this now?
Yeah. What surprises me is that people are, are surprised by how much I'm still in love with my husband, and how much, like, because I'm like, isn't it supposed to be that way? Do you know what I mean? But I think it's always been like that. I don't know, would you call it luck or call it being blessed? Like I said, before I got married, I very much knew what I did not want, right? And I think I have a lot of love for myself from a very young age, what everyone calls self love now. And I think I felt entitled to receive nothing but the best when it comes to relationships, right? So, and I think that really affected my choice of partner in terms of me not being married to an African. Um, nothing was,
Okay.
nothing came in between that either. Like, I'm not going to choose someone just because you're the same tribe as me or the same anything. No, I move with people based on how we bond, on how you treat me, right? So I'm quite
Yeah.
open and non-judgmental like that. But in terms of like me feeling like the way I do now, I don't know. He's just amazing. And we're very young together. We're very young together. We're very real with each other, you know? And sometimes it's like, even now I look at him, I'm like, how are we even here? Like this guy that I just saw dancing in a club one day. Like, how are you? How am I in your house? How are you in my house? How do we have kids together? You know? But the thing is that we both value each other and we both value our relationship and we don't play with it. So that was always a priority right from when we met, you know. So even like, for example, I hear you say you're in oil and gas. He was as well. And at that time it was very much like sending people offshore. So because our marriage and being together and we like each other's company was a priority, was one of the things that one of the first decisions we made, that we're not doing any work that means that you're going to be away 2 months and then back and then 2 months and then back. That works for some people, not
Yeah.
judging that. But for us, that's not what we wanted. And so a lot of what people see as just like, you know, romantic and whatever was very intentional. We always
Yeah.
put our relationship first before anything else, anything
Yeah.
and anyone else. And there were certain sacrifices that we made. So even in things like the pursuit of money and success, our relationship came first. And it always has, you know. So I guess it's that prioritizing the relationship. Like, we actually married each other because we like each other, we're in love with each other, and we want to be together. And so every other decision comes from that place. And those decisions were not always easy ones to make, because sometimes people will be looking at you as if you're moving mad. I'm like, it's okay, right? So it's also like being more attached to our own vision of what we want than pleasing other people. We couldn't please everybody. And I'm glad we didn't, you
Yeah.
know? And that's not even throwing shade to anybody, because I know that everyone around us loves us and they want the best
Yeah.
for us, but they don't know what our best is. You know, they don't know what our best is. So, yeah. And I would say that, you know, sometimes when I ask him if he was here now, I think he's gone for a haircut. I'd have called him and say hi. But he says that it can only be God. And I'm like, you're right, because for you to catch a fine babe like me, God must have, you know. So yeah, those are the things, you know. I would definitely say that even before I got married, I always had a relationship with God, but there was something about this relationship that brought us closer to God. It was like, I don't believe that you can have that kind that we can have that kind of love and not know God. Like, when you experience a certain kind of love, God is close to you because that's what he wants, right? So
Yeah.
does that answer the question?
Yes, yes, it
Right.
does.
Yeah.
Yes, it does.
Thanks.
Mm,
We're learning from
yeah.
you.
Well, yeah, that thing about prioritizing each other, because you can be pulled in so many different directions, you know. And I guess it's like, even this thing you're saying about identity, it's like when your identity as a corporate person is pulling you in one direction, your identity as somebody's daughter, your identity as somebody's employer or employee, as a friend, as a mother. All these things pull you in different directions, right? But we just focused on, as long as me and you are like this, everything else is okay. The minute I feel any of those things beginning to pull us apart, then it has to go, or we have to find our way through it, you know? So we really, really prioritized our love, and we really prioritized like enjoying ourselves, like in marriage, you know, like really being each other's, like you guys have said, like our best, you know, he's my best friend, he's my boyfriend, he's my stud muffin, he's my guy. He's an excellent father as well. PR campaign for him. I'm trying to collect pocket money before I go to Dubai tomorrow. You know,
Wow.
yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, the sun is setting here in my eyes. Sorry. Okay, guys. So finally, what can we expect from Nino and Lulu this time? In, don't worry, I'm not going to ask you about your immediate plans, but I mean, in 5 years' time, where do you hope that this journey is taking you on, in terms of Tala and in terms of you as a married couple? 5 years from now, what would you envision?
Okay. So I think, first of all, in terms of our marriage, getting to a place where the marriage has caused us to grow into better Christians. Because one of the things that will help you really grow as a Christian is marriage. You know, I think that's something that I was listening to, and I said, when you ask God for more patience, does He give you patience, or does He put you in situations where you need to be
Where
more
you have to be.
patient?
Wow.
Vice versa with every other thing. So you say, oh God, I want to be more loving. And He puts you in a situation where that love, you actually have to give it. You can choose being hateful, but you have to. And that's what God does with marriage. Like, we've really seen ourselves grow over time. But in 5-10 years, we want to get to a place where we are truly solid. Like, we've built something that nothing can shake. You know, like Scripture says, if the foundation be faulty, what can the righteous do? You know, but we truly developing and building ourselves on that rock, you know, that is Jesus, that no matter, because we know, I mean, we're just how many years in, we know that there are some tailor-made trials that come for couples maybe 15 years in that we cannot plan. Yes, we're just holding on to God. We want to get to the point where no matter the storm that comes, people can even vouch, and God can even vouch for us and say that this couple will stand. You know, that's from a personal, from a marital point of view. And then from Tala, to be very honest, like we had said earlier, God is calling us to take part of the revival in the institution and the mountain of marriage and family life. So by 5-10 years, to be like a respected voice, you know, an institution where people come to drink from when it has to do with all things marriage. I always teach my wife and tell her that, see, that one day we'll have a school where before you get married, you must pass through that school. They give you a certificate before you enter into the institution of marriage, because we believe.
Hello? Oh dear, I don't know what's happening, guys, but okay, you're back now. Yeah, sorry. I lost you when you were saying that before you get married, that people have to have a scope.
Yes. Pass through our institution, God helping us, you know, because we feel like just the same way you do 4 years in school to get certified to be an engineer, you actually need to pass through. And the 6 weeks premarital counseling that people do before marriage is not enough. I mean, it's not enough. So actually going through proper research, living it out, to be able to get some sort of course that people need to get certified. I mean, you still learn some things on the journey of marriage, but so that people can literally say that, okay, I'm ready for marriage, and they don't just go into there and just make a mess of the institution. Because the more divorces we see, the more marriages that turn out bad that we see, it's like we feel it personally. It's like a blow. It's like a blow on us. Like, for every marriage that is failing, we must build 2 or 3 more marriages that are succeeding. You know, so that is, we take it so personally, and that's what we intend to to do.
Wow.
My husband has put it very finely. Just what he said is to see in 10 years at least 1,000 couples. I would say my marriage is better because I followed you, or because I learned this and this from you, or because I implemented some of the things you shared with us online. To have at least 1,000 people, and that which then translates into having at least 1,000 good marriages that have come back from Tala.
People can even learn from, so that we don't do all the work ourselves. Yeah.
Oh, that's going to be amazing. And that's what I want. One of the reasons that I started my journey as a therapist and a coach that I didn't share was that it was because of my children as well. When I saw, just what was even happening in their generation when they were very small, I'm like, but that kid wouldn't be so mean if they felt loved, and etc., etc. So I see a lot of the work I do as like my love letter to the next generation. Like, this is my legacy. It's not living, although God bless me with money, it's not about money. It's about leaving a legacy of healthy relationships. I want there to be happy families, very selfishly, all around my children, so that they are feeling love as well. I literally, I sound like those people that are doing Miss World. I want the world to be a better place, but no, but it's true. It's really, for me, it's that simple. And it does break my heart when I see people, wounded just because, like, their parents or their friends or whoever it was didn't really know how to nurture those relationships. And you know what? If they can send us to school to learn maths and English, I think that, we need to be, I would like to think that maybe my grandchildren's generation, that, relationships, self-awareness, things like that are part of the curriculum, that we're having more conversations and being more intentional about learning to have healthy relationships, So, yeah. May God continue to bless you. And I'm looking forward to seeing the more than 1,000 couples that you're going to bless. And yeah, He will strengthen you. And I hope you continue to have joy in your marriage and peace. I hope you laugh a lot. I hope you laugh a lot in your marriage. I hope you learn what battles to pick, and I hope that you have a team of people around you that love and support you and pour into you as well, as much as you pour into other people.
Amen.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
It's a pleasure. I'm just so excited that you guys agreed to come and talk to me. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for listening with us and bearing with us on the tech issues. I hope that you've been blessed by listening to the amazing and beautiful and even more handsome, now since he has been married, to his friend, Nino and Lulu. You guys are so amazing. Thank you so much. And I guess we'll talk soon. Okay, take care. So how do I do this? Stop.